Alright, you read the title, you clicked the video, you know why we're here. Hi, it's Llarold, and I'll just start out by talking about what happened to me yesterday. I was about 50 divines into a crafting project for a lightning strike claw, and it wasn't going well. My plan was to put together a god tier weapon and make a video about the build, but that all got pushed back by several rounds of bad luck, which happens, I guess. I mean, it did happen, so I guess it happens. As I was burning through thousands and thousands of essences, I saw that one of my map teams was captured by the bandit leader, and I thought, okay, good, maybe I'll get a power rune or just something to turn my luck around. I opened the portals to the fight, clicked them, and my game crashed. I loaded back in, went to King's March, the portals were gone, and I could no longer rescue or ransom my mappers. I spent a few minutes searching around the internet, coping, hoping that there was some way out of this predicament, and no. Unfortunately, you just have to abandon them if this happens. This was very annoying. I was mad. I hadn't had any issues with the King's March bosses at all to this point in the league, and I just lost a team of 3 level 10s and 3 level 9s. Not good. But I had enough gold to recruit some replacements. Not equal replacements, but I could at least get some guys on the team. I replaced Nikola Jokic with Nikola Jovic. I have a European equivalent here in my notes. I lost Phil Foden, but I had Anthony as a substitute. So things weren't going great. But I could at least set up a backup squad. I did. I didn't have much gold left afterward, less than 100,000, so I decided to start farming gold. As I was about to enter the first map, a notification popped up indicating that my sailors had been captured by the Pirate King. And again, I thought, good, maybe I'll get a power rune or something, and my luck will turn around. At the very least, I'll get 50,000 gold to kickstart, setting things back up. The fight loaded fine. It was going normally. No problems. The second intermission began, and then my game hard crashed to desktop. Same story as before. Load into King's March, no portal, bye-bye sailors. Now I don't even have the gold to set up a second group of replacement level guys. I was enraged. I yelled. I don't have footage of it, but that's a good thing. It would get demonetized. So my channel manager, Sunset, asked why I was yelling, and I told her what happened. I yelled it. She helped me troubleshoot the crashing issues, and the TLDR on that is, update your graphics drivers. Once I was done, she said, you can wallow in your grief, or I can make you a nice coffee to kickstart your farming session. I think for a lot of people, this would be a done with the league moment. Bad crafting RNG happens, crashes happen, one-shot fights, tied to massive losses of account progression if you experience technical issues are not a great fight. It's frustrating. I get why someone would be done at this point. So a few minutes later, I was drinking a nice coffee and going through some of my previous gold farming strategies, and I decided I would run an experiment to see if I could find the best strategy for farming gold in tier 16 maps on a relative budget. And that is what the rest of this video will be about. So I'll just start by talking about the setup of my character and so on. I am playing a Lightning Strike Slayer. I will be talking about this build at some point, but not right this second. I did have a pretty substantial amount of rarity on the character, 237%. Most of that is coming from this ring. And also I am running item rarity support. I have sacrificed a lot of damage in order to do that, but this character has enough damage that it's okay, I'm able to compensate for that. But over 200% rarity on the character, quite a lot. Now, I went through some of my old strategies. I went all the way back to sort of the corrupted 8 mod map farming / tier 17 map farming in tier 16s. This is something I do pretty much every single day for 30 minutes to an hour at least, just to maintain a stockpile of maps. I did some of this immediately. You'll note that the gold per map is something like 25 to 30,000. Not amazing, the maps aren't long, but not a great gold farming strategy. I played around a bit with some of the other strategies like the stack deck farming, and okay, they're okay in terms of gold, but not amazing. So I didn't bother with crop rotation again. I knew how that would go. Not that great in terms of gold. The one strategy that I had found that really did a good job in terms of generating a lot of gold in the past was this good and plenty strategy that I was playing around with, I guess 2 days ago at this point. And so I thought I would kind of iterate on that and play around with some of the concepts from that. And basically, I just started thinking, what is the best way to shove as many guys as possible into my maps and make them go super fast? And domination really seemed like the approach for that. Now, there are a couple of ways that you could do domination. You could just literally throw as many domination scarabs in as you can. get an extra 8 shrines on top of the 2 that you get from your Atlas passive tree, 3 that you get from the map device, and I guess that would be 13 shrines in a map. That seems pretty good, but there is some other interesting synergy that's available. So I'll just kind of point out one node here from the shrine nodes. Drawn to Power gives you a guaranteed magic pack at each of your shrines and a 50% chance to have an extra pack of monsters there as well. So I think that with having upwards of 10 shrines in your map, Scarab of Monstrous Lineage, 40% increased pack size on that guaranteed magic pack, along with all the other magic packs that are throughout the map, I think that's a pretty good idea. So I went with this as my kind of baseline setup: 3 regular Domination Scarabs, a Monstrous Lineage, and then one of this new Domination Scarab of Evolution. Now, the way that this works, as we can pull up the wiki here, is it makes it so that when you have this buff active, when you kill enemies, they have a chance to evolve. They will, on a 5% chance, revive as a higher rarity tier. So a normal monster turns into a magic turns into a rare, rares can't turn into unique, so there's kind of a hard limiter on that, but still, 5% more monsters and 5% more monsters of higher rarity seems really good. Now, there are some other really valuable shrine buffs as well. Covetous Shrine is probably the most valuable one, 15% quant and 50% rarity. That's pretty huge. And then all the rest of the shrine buffs are mainly just about clearing super fast. Resonating Shrine giving you all of these damage and defensive mods based on charges, and then I'm playing a charge stacking build, so that really has good synergy. Gloom Shrine giving you tons of clear. Acceleration Shrine's probably the best of all of the shrine buffs just because it makes you super fast, and this whole idea is really just about going super fast. So this is the spreadsheet that I have kind of cooked up from all of the strategies I played around with, just measuring how they farm gold. The goal here was to do relatively inexpensive strategies, tier 16 maps, relative budget, all of that stuff. I've laid out, and I will put this spreadsheet in the video description. I have an Atlas tree for each of these strategies. I have the Scarabs I ran, and then the gold I got from running 5 maps. That's what I did, 5 maps of each of these strategies, just kind of filling them out. And then my relative time per map and my gold per hour. Now, I think that you could probably clear these even faster than I did, probably quite a bit faster than I did if you were using a headhunter or just any sort of bow build that moves very quickly, but I think my clear times were pretty good for a relatively common build. Lightning Strike Slayer, moving pretty quick, pretty common build, pretty strong. I think these are all fairly representative. So my initial test was 3 Domination Scarabs, a Domination Scarab of Evolution, and a Monstrous Lineage. This setup right here, this was kind of the baseline I went for. I felt like this would add a lot of shrines, a lot of guys. You know, we've got a baseline of 5 shrines if we're running Domination on the map device, which I did for all of these, and then 2 Domination shrines from the Atlas passive tree. That's 5 baseline. Then we add another 6 with these, and then 1 with the Evolving Shrine. You know, that's a pretty large number of shrines. 12 shrines, pretty good. I did think about playing with Domination Scarab of Apparitions. I'll just show those off here as well. This adds 2 shrines into your maps, just like regular Domination shrines, but they are Warlords, Crusaders, Redeemers, or Hunter shrines. Basically, they just give you some extra damage, and then you have a chance to convert rare items into influenced items. This is maybe good as some sort of niche base farming strategy. The problem with this is that, as far as I could tell, these don't get converted into Covetous Shrines, which means fewer shots at Covetous Shrines, fewer shots at Acceleration and Gloom Shrines, and that just seems worse to me in terms of farming gold. And so I didn't play around with those in this strategy at all, didn't think that they were worth exploring. And so my takeaway from this, if I kind of show off the tree here that I used for a lot of this, I used this same tree for both of the more or less similar, samey style of Domination Shrines. It's the standard red farming setup that I've been using for most of my recent map farming, generic quant and rarity juicing setups. Pretty familiar stuff. And I found that I was making over 600,000 gold per hour, just kind of forcing as many shrines into the maps. They were pretty quick, under 3 minutes on all the maps, somewhere in the range of 2.5 to 3 minutes on all the maps. I did try popping 2 Evolution Scarabs in instead of 3 Domination Scarabs in, and I actually found that I made a little bit less gold. You know, that's kind of within the range of RNG, like 7,000 less gold over the span of 5 maps. These, to me, are basically the same number. but I was actually a little underwhelmed. I thought that the evolution scarabs would maybe be a little bit better than the regular domination shrines, and if anything, I would say maybe they were worse. They were about the same. Again, kind of a bit of a disappointment. Not enough to take all of the evolution scarabs out, but a little bit of a disappointment overall. Now, I also played with Beyond, and I'll show off that Atlas passive tree here. Basically, I dropped a lot of map drop stuff. I dropped a lot of things that would make this more lucrative currency-wise, and picked up Beyond, a guaranteed Beyond, and did what I could to make it so there would be a lot of Beyond monsters in the map. And there were. I found that the maps were, unfortunately, I made more gold in the span of 5 maps. I got more gold per map, but I felt that I added about 30 to 45 seconds per map by having Beyond in there, as opposed to just juicing as many shrines as I possibly could. And I didn't think that I made enough more gold to be better, essentially. I found that this was not as profitable. The same goes with Delirium. Again, I set up a similar tree, pretty much just dropping all of the Beyond stuff in favor of Delirium, where I took some Delirium reward stuff. I did take Unending Nightmare. This isn't a Delirium mirror strategy, since I am doing Jungle Valley 8 mod maps with red altars, all Jungle Valley maps. I'm skipping the boss every time. I'm not doing the boss. So because of that, I didn't want to take the normal Delirium mirror juicing stuff where you take Imagined Pursuits and then you kind of clear the map out and then push to the boss and kill that right before the Delirium mirror despawns. It's sort of a whole timed, speedy thing. We're not really doing any of that, so we're not really getting a lot of value out of the Delirium. We're basically just, every time we tick over the Delirium counter, maybe we get something valuable. I did get a Divine Orb out of that. Would I credit it to the Delirium reward counter? Actually, yeah, I think it did come from that, and that's cool. But overall, I did not find that Delirium, despite a lot of love for Delirium in the community, I guess, as like a good currency farming strategy, juicing mechanic, I did not find that it was particularly good in terms of gold, because it made all the maps significantly slower, because all the mobs were harder to kill. Especially, you know, you get Delirium in there with a Soul Eater monster at the end of the map, you might be there on a guy for over a minute. I mean, I did have a map that was over 5 minutes that I said, because that scenario, it happened, and I said, all right, I'm gonna kind of discount that. I felt that it was about 4 minutes for the rest of the maps, but if I were actually including that, this would be more like 4.5 minutes per map, which would be much, 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 much worse. So the potential for bad with Delirium is real bad. So next up, I wanted to compare Ritual. This is something I'd talked about previously, setting up so that you will have Ritual in your maps, and I did do that. I guaranteed Ritual, but as you can see, I'm not really taking a lot of Ritual nodes. I'm not coming down and taking anything that interacts with Ritual. I'm just forcing it into my maps with Occult Devotion, so there are 4 altars. And the reason is, as you can tell from the time, I'm not actually doing the rituals. I'm just using them to spawn guys. And I found this was actually really good. It was slightly slower than the standard domination setup, you know, maybe within the span of 10 seconds, close enough to be pretty much the same. And as you can see, I did get more gold per map, like a meaningful amount of gold per map more, about 2,000 more. That's pretty good, 2,500, I suppose. Because of this, I would say, I think that adding Ritual into your maps and not doing it is actually a pretty good strategy for adding a bunch more guys in, adding in more currency, more rewards. I did get, I can't remember, some valuable currency rewards out of this. Also some nice omens out of monsters standing near the rituals. So I probably made about a Divine's worth of stuff just by adding in the rituals to the maps and then not actually running them. Pretty good use of Ritual, I have to say. And then next up, I just wanted to compare all of this to the Good and Plenty strategy that I had done before. Put out the video on that yesterday. And so the strategy is 4 Plenty Scarabs and a Monstrous Lineage, just forcing 12 magic packs into the maps. You know, same strategy as I talked about before. Forcing 12 magic packs that have massively increased drop chance on divination cards into your maps, and then juicing that magic pack size with Monstrous Lineage. Pretty simple. And kind of unsurprising, I got massively more gold out of them. Enough that it is statistically significant, it's undeniable. I got like 9,000 gold more per map than I did with the honestly pretty good Domination Scarab strategy. So I think this is pretty much the silver bullet here. This is kind of the strategy that everything else needs to compete with. It's very simple, it's very cheap. These Plenty Scarabs, at least for now, are very inexpensive. because they're really not that amazing for currency farming, as yesterday's strategy kind of showed off. But yeah, ultimately, I wasn't really very impressed by these as a, like, currency, chaos orb, divine orb farming strategy, but as a gold farming strategy, I did sort of say, hey, I think this might be good. And I think that putting this through the extra speedy approach of doing jungle valleys and skipping the map boss, this really, really, really works. It's pretty great. So then I just tried 2 other strategies just to kind of compare. One was adding Ritual and then not actually running it, so the exact same Atlas passive tree as I had done with Ritual, but instead of running all the Domination Scarabs like I did in the Domination setup, I just ran the Good and Plenty setup of Scarabs, still ran Domination in the map device, still had Domination Scarabs, or Domination Shrines, I should say, in the passive tree. Pretty much the same passive tree as I was running for the Ritual setup, and this was by far the best in terms of gold per hour. Not doing the Ritual, important, right? It doesn't really seem like it adds any time. Maybe it adds literally 5 seconds. You know, if you sneeze in the map or you take a long time loading into the map, it's gonna add about the same amount of time as clearing out these rituals without actually running them. And then I did one in which I actually ran the rituals just to see, does rezzing these plenty monsters have a positive impact? Does it make them drop more div cards? And my answer to that, as far as I could tell, was no. The monsters, when they die, they spawn these purple books that shoot out apparently lightning damage at you, or some mix of lightning and chaos damage, but very dangerous books. And my experience in doing the rituals and killing some of these monsters the second time was that those books did not respawn. I also did not get any divination cards from any of the rituals I did, whereas in the span of 15 maps, 15 jungle valleys, and I have scryed Underground Sea onto that, so I have Divine Beauty coming from my jungle valleys, I did actually get 2 Divine Beauties. So this actually wound up being kind of profitable currency-wise, actually a lot more successful. I think, you know, a bit of good luck on my part, but definitely a lot more successful than my initial attempt at measuring like the divine per hour profitability. I actually found it just focusing on gold. I think I wound up making more chaos divines, whatever, per hour. So, you know, it is what it is. Ultimately, I think actually running ritual, not very good in terms of gold per hour, but adding it to your maps and then clearing the monsters out has been pretty successful. I do think that is a secret technique for making this really work. So this is ultimately how I brought my town back from an 18-carat run of bad luck. I have replaced and upgraded a lot of the replacement level map runners that I had initially, and just today, not even including all the ones that they farmed yesterday, they have brought me 5 Valdos puzzle boxes, multiple raw divines, and, you know, they're doing a pretty good job of replacing the old team. I owe it all to a pretty mediocre divination scarab. It's neither good nor bad for farming currency, it's just mid. It's extremely mid, the most mid that a scarab could be. But for farming gold, I don't know why, but for some reason, those div card monsters from this Scarab of Plenty are insanely rich. Maybe they convert garbage div cards to gold, maybe they increase div card drop chance is also applying to gold value. Either way, they are basically the Monopoly man, and they will be my go-to gold farming strategy for the rest of the league. I have hundreds of them stockpiled up. I love it now. So, good and plenty, terrible candy, but amazing as a gold farm strategy. I did talk about this with my channel manager last night, and we agreed that these wax bottle soda candies, nickel nips, are the worst candy of all time. They're basically like eating a candle. I cannot believe they still exist. Now, I have tried some much higher investment strategies and some tier 17 strategies as well, and found them to be somewhat competitive in the 700,000 gold per hour range, but the cost is higher, the difficulty is higher, and the gameplay loop just isn't as simple and enjoyable to me. There's also a lot higher chance for variance. If you're doing anything with tier 17s, those maps might run a couple minutes longer, and now your gold per hour is in the toilet. I was also a little disappointed by the evolving shrines. I still think they're strong, but they effectively function as a multiplier, so they really need to be layered onto a juicier strategy rather than this simple setup. At least that's my takeaway thus far. In a strategy that's all about quickly clearing maps, mechanics like Beyond and Delirium that artificially slow down the farming process actually tend to do more harm than good, and that kind of makes sense to me. I think it's why I've never really liked them all that much. You get more currency per map, to be sure, but you do fewer maps per hour. That's not great. The Evolving Shrine kind of functions like a better version of Beyond, so I don't think it's bad, but I'm not totally sold on it either. With all of that being said, the Good and Plenty strategy is terrific. I cannot recommend it highly enough if you're looking to farm gold quickly and easily. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye.